I'm currently on the phone with Nathaniel Roland. He's another musician that reached out about the interview session. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Alexander, I'm Nathaniel Roland. I'm from Western Wisconsin, about an hour from Minneapolis, actually. Play like rock and roll, kind of like sad, darker rock and roll, and then some weird instrumental type music also.
Yes, I love sad, darkened rock and roll. That's that's what's up. All right. Well, so let's kind of get into your past. Tell me how you first kind of came in contact with music.
Probably ever since I was just like a wee little baby. My dad was a guitar player, and he was like a really good guitar player. So I grew up watching him play. And my mom always sang around the house. So like music was just kind of always there for me. And like they gave me like a 45 record player when I was little. So I'd run home from like kindergarten and listen to the Beatles.
So you kind of just grew up with music constantly being played. Were your parents musicians at all, or did I just miss that?
Yeah, you just like I was just saying, like my dad was a guitar player. Like he's a really, really good guitar player. He played in band. So I would always see him playing around the house. And
Okay, so he was out playing with a band, and did you kind of just want to emulate that, or did you have like a deeper connection? Like, was he kind of also pushing you into it?
he got me a guitar probably a month before he passed away. And I mean, yeah, I always, even before that though, like I had a little Casio keyboard that I would goof around on and just kind of taught myself some of that stuff. It's like how to play a little bit. And then,
So would you say? So would you say you're mostly self-taught with your instruments, or did you take private lessons as well?
I did do some private lessons when I was younger. And then I went to music tech in Minneapolis as a music school. It turned into McNally Smith and then they closed. But I went there for the guitar program. And then I went also for the recording, engineering, and music business programs. So I did that for a couple of years.
Okay, and so tell me about kind of your initial steps to learning an instrument.
Well, I think I even before I was proficient, I was creating. I had a 4 track at home, and I would just kind of noodle and goof around and write my weird little songs, you know.
And was that just with keyboards that you were doing that, or were you doing guitars on that as well?
Guitar, yeah, and a little bit of keyboards.
Okay, and then so with that being on like a 4 track recording, whatever came of those recordings, did you ever like flush them out, or was that kind of just for your own practice?
I actually did sit down like 2 years ago and recreated something that I did like 30 years ago, and I almost think the 4 track recording had a little bit more of a vibe to it than the new digital recording, because it was a lot of like slowed down and reverse type stuff. So I went back and used the 4 track again to recreate and then run that into my DAW, because there's something about like slowing stuff down or reversing it digitally isn't quite the same as reversing a tape or slowing it down. And I don't know why, but it just has a different vibe to it.
Okay, and so from my understanding of back in those analog days, the way that they kind of did multi-instrument recording would be like they would record several instruments onto one track and then several more instruments onto one track and then have like another 4 track recorder that they would kind of record all of those instruments down also onto one track. Is that kind of the process that you took?
So what I would do is if I used up the 4 tracks, or if I used up 3 tracks, I would take those 3 and bounce them down to the 4th track that was available, and then I would have another 3 tracks available. But I think back in those days, I didn't really know how to use my 4 track very well, so a lot of stuff just ended up kind of all mixed together and jumbled. So it wasn't really easy to mix, I guess. But for, what I was doing, just kind of demoing stuff on my own. It didn't really matter at the time.
Okay, so let's kind of move forward to like your young adult years. Once you're out of school, how did you continue to have music in your life?
I started a band with three of my best friends, and we played around for like 5 or 6 years, recorded an album, and then you get married, and Jimmy quit, Joey got married, that whole deal,
Hmm.
and then you get the picket fence, and then you got the kids, and like a couple of the guys, like I think I stuck with it longer than everybody else did. I guess I'm still the only one that's doing it, so I obviously, but
Okay, so I feel like that kind of took up a significant amount of time. That wasn't just like a couple months and then you called it quits. Would that
yeah,
be accurate?
yeah, yep. I mean, we played for good 6 years, so.
So tell me a bit about what that process was like. Were you guys writing material and gigging, or was it just all in somebody's garage? Like, what was kind of the context of it?
We started out like kind of writing our own tunes and playing a bunch of Metallica songs, and then we got better. And our drummer he was killer, man. He was also our singer. So like, in your band is really only as good as your drummer. So we were actually pretty decent. And then we started getting local gigs and playing at bars. And then we had a bunch of songs together. We did a demo at a local studio, and then ended up going in like a couple of years later to a studio in Minneapolis and recording our full album, which was Captain I Sooner Than Now. That was the name of the band and the album. And then we played around for a couple more years, and I think just like the debt of that album, you take out $10,000 in loans to make an album back then, and yeah, I think that kind of like crushed a couple of the guys' spirits, and
Sure, yeah,
but we
that's
got
hard.
through it. We all came out of it friends, which that's great.
Okay, so let's again move forward. What happened after that band? Kind of everybody went their separate ways. How did you kind of take your next step?
I took a couple of years just kind of getting myself in order and doing stuff around with like I at that point I'd just gotten a Mac and I had GarageBand, so I was learning a little of like the digital world of recording. And then like around 2006 I joined like three bands, and then I joined a U2 cover band and a Radiohead tribute excuse me a U2 cover band and a Radiohead tribute band, and was in them till about 2013. And that's kind of, my health kind of took a dive at that point. I've had muscular dystrophy ever since I was a kid, but at that point I couldn't play live anymore. I couldn't carry my stuff in to set it up, and like just bending over to set up your pedal board. And with a U2 tribute band or a Radiohead tribute band, you got a lot of pedals. So
Sure.
at that point I was just like, I'm done playing live. And I took another few years off and was just kind of working on my own material around the house, and then started a recording studio in 2017. Just after I had lung cancer, I had an opportunity to set up shop in the basement of a place, and got a couple of people come in to record, and did that sort of thing. And I'm still doing that now, but just out of my own house.
And you said you're in western Wisconsin, so would that be like the Menominee area or Eau Claire?
Yeah, Menominee's like 20 minutes from here.
Okay, cool. So you have some ties to the Minneapolis music scene, as well as I assume kind of the Menominee and Eau Claire, kind of the college circuit that's out there. So if any of those bands want to come record, you're open to them, kind of thing.
Totally, totally.
So how do you kind of feel that you're at now? You mentioned that you opened up kind of your own at-home project studio. Is that kind of what you see for your future? What kind of solo projects are you working on for yourself?
Well, with the Nathaniel Roland stuff, like I put out these albums called Prairie Dogs Have Plague, and there's four different volumes of it, and they're weird. A lot of them are like a minute long or 30-second long songs, and they're just like really weird stuff. Like one of them is on my last one, I kind of had like a movie TV inspiration kind of surge where one song was a heist setup montage theme song, and it sounds like if you were gonna like go rob a bank, this is your theme song, or like for the Italian Job or something. It would like fit right in one of those movies perfectly. And then I did like this one that was called Samson and Ford, and I kind of pictured it as like a um like an old TV show, like a 70s kind of junkyard dog type show, kind of like Sanford and Son, but I don't know. And then there was another one that was inspired by Harold Faltermeyer's Axel F, and I called it Foley A because it reminded me of you would see Beverly Hills Cop, like he's sneaking around a warehouse or something. It's just like weird stuff like that. But they're like all these unused ideas that I'm like, what am I going to do with this 30 seconds or 2 minutes of music that you can't really sing over it? So and it actually worked out really well for what it was.
And do you kind of imagine those kind of being like commercial license kind of tunes, or eventually you'll put out like an album of them? What do you think your like long-term goal for that?
Yeah, they're actually those four are out there. The Prairie Dogs Have Plague volumes 1 through 4 are on all the streaming services, and then I also have two other albums that I sing on, and those are like the like kind of a they're like sad rock songs, I guess, like a little bit slower tempo, kind of a darker sound. And then, so like I have 100 songs released right now. So, and then my plan is to hopefully release at least 100 more in the next few years.
All right. Well, so with all the time that you've been working on music, learning instruments, and then setting up your own studio, what are your like most prominent memories that kind of stand out to you and kind of keep you motivated?
I think just having the what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't know, just the ability to be able to write and record and release it all from my living room is like this huge like bonus for me. Because I mean, you think about 23 years ago, we went into the studio with my band, and we went into debt, and we came out with a CD that was, we were like, all right, it's okay, but it wasn't, I don't think, exactly what we pictured. But the cool thing is I sat down 3 years ago and remixed that project from the original 2-inch analog tapes. So that was fun to do.
You did that? Did you do it again on analog, or did you take like the stems, put them into the DAW, and then rework them that way?
Since I don't have a 2-inch machine, I sent them to the guy that originally recorded it, and he dumped them down to digital for me. And then he kept the 2-inch tapes, and then I just worked from within my DAW at that point.
Any others?
As far as like memories that stand out,
Yeah.
I think, I really miss playing live. We played a lot of fun shows. And I had a lot of fun, especially with like the tribute bands. I think tribute bands kind of sometimes get a bad rap, but man, it was so cool to like sit down and recreate the tones for all those songs. Like, I think that was probably the most challenging part about it. Like, playing songs, they weren't that super challenging to play, but recreating the sounds and like trying to do it as authentically as possible was a bit of a challenge, but I really liked it.
Yeah, that actually does kind of sound interesting. I've heard that there's people that will go so far as to like kind of get the exact same gear and things like that. I've talked to a couple other tribute artists through this wave of the interview sessions that I've been doing, and there seems to be different kind of quite a spectrum of people's like commitment to that, to dressing up exactly like the artist, or seeking the exact gear and tone kind of thing. It seems very interesting.
Kind of did that with the U2 project because I was playing the Edge. So you got to have a stocking hat for sure. And I would grow the goatee, every time we'd have a show, I'd have the goatee. And then, there's kind of some different versions of the Edge out there. Like in the early 90s, you get Cowboy Edge. That was my favorite one to play. The black cowboy hat, it was just a lot of fun. It's like kind of like a biker cowboy, I guess.
All right. Well, where can people find your stuff and check you out?
My website is natermusic.com, Nater music.com. And my music's available there or on any of the streaming services. Nathaniel Roland is my artist name. But yeah, I'm definitely out there.
All right. So I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So what's a message that you believe in that you think other people should hear?
That not everybody that is out there making music is like a actual like healthy being. Like my body is kind of wrecked at this point. I have barely any strength to lift my guitar up and get it up over my shoulders. But there's people out there that are blind or paraplegic and quadriplegic that are like still out there playing and making music. And I think we're seeing, a little bit more of that these days, like with some of the bigger artists kind of talking about their health issues and stuff like that. So I think that's just kind of, there should be a little more awareness. And also like, as far as like for club owners, like they should be trying to make their stages more accessible, because that's one of the big reasons that I quit is like you go to play at a gig and there's no stairs to get on the stage, and like I can barely do stairs at this point. So it'd be nice to like find a venue where there's like a ramp for people like me, people in wheelchairs, So, but and don't be a dick, like you were saying. Don't be a dick to people. I think is a good message. I like that.